Can you guys all say Team Say on 3? 1, 2, 3.
Hi, I'm Marianne Gonzalez, the producer of Dr. Libby's World of Medicine and Teen Say. So, hi Peter. I'm here with Peter Yarrow from Peter, Paul, and Mary. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us.
My pleasure, sweetheart.
So, we just finished a show on 6th graders going into 7th grade, going into the intermediate school. So it's kind of scary for them. And they've heard all about, how the 8th graders will bully them and how, they're going to be the little Sebbies. So I was wondering, because you are head of Operation Respect, if you want to tell us real quickly about Operation Respect.
Oh, well, in Operation Respect, we've been in existence for 15 years, and what we have tried to establish, and we are in 22,000 schools in the United States and all over the world, is a climate in classroom that's accepting and loving and caring, that allows kids to feel that they're valuable and valued by their friends. And if they are in such an environment, they feel really, really able to focus on their studies rather than being upset and distracted by hostility. So in a way, even though we are a program and an organization that focuses on creating a positive climate, in a way it's also violence prevention and bullying prevention. Because if kids are getting along, then they're feeling that they have a culture that says, we're not going to accept that kind of behavior from each other. And that becomes peer pressure that to a large degree diminishes and even eliminates that kind of pressure. Now the way we do that is through a social and emotional learning, which is like the other side of the report card. You've got your academics, and then you say, well, how do you engage a child to become, or a youth, to become more sensitive to others? And that's done with little dramas where it's experiential learning, which means they actually experience what it's like to feel put down, or feel, as we say, put up. What they experience, they talk about their feelings. They recognize what they're feeling inside themselves, and then they can empathize with other people's feelings. So if you combine those kinds of exercises, which we didn't develop, they were developed by Educators for Social Responsibility. If you combine that with music that brings them together so they're singing together with joy and togetherness, they're unlikely to say, oh, I don't like you, you're the wrong color, or I don't like you, you're the wrong religion, or you're gay, you're ugly. They're already sharing the same emotional space, and it's very powerful. So this has been 15 years of growth, and we know that when kids are given this kind of series of tools, that they can forge an environment in conjunction with their teachers that's really supportive, rather than making them feel threatened and less than.
So how would these 7th graders handle when they start school? Besides, maybe later you can sing for us, Don't Laugh at Me,
Sure.
which I've already mentioned to them. They were
Right.
very excited.
Right.
How would you say they should walk into school with an attitude, and how should they respond to this old school, that the older grades are going to pick on the younger grades? It's very old school, because most schools have they teach that we're not supposed to bully, but yet we're hearing that this is still going on, which I find is amazing.
Well, if you're going into a school in which the culture is one that allows and accepts put-downs and bullying, you're going to have to deal with that reality in ways that are going to challenge you. And there are strategies to do that. But the most positive thing to do is for a school to work together to create a positive environment where that doesn't happen. So
Right.
if you can adopt the Don't Laugh at Me program in your school, or there are other strategies and programs that work equally well. Let us say that you're faced with this reality. The first thing that I would suggest is that you have to develop a certain kind of internal resilience by understanding that this kind of behavior, number one, is inappropriate.
Unacceptable, yeah.
And you have to make sure that you know it's not your fault if somebody is making fun of you. You can't internalize that and say, yeah, I'm different and I'm less than. When you get that kind of attack, it's a very painful thing. And the second thing is you try and develop allies so that you can talk about what you're experiencing. If you can find some good friends that you can really talk openly and not pretend that everything is okay, but really mutually open your hearts, then you can be supportive of each other. But if you go home and just shut down and don't share it with your friends, it's not helping yourself. And the other thing is hopefully you find
makes
an
you feel
adult,
really bad.
maybe your parent, that you can talk to, and establish the idea of talking to your parent as a really sympathetic, aware friend. Yes, you are that parent's child, but you are dealing with an adult kind of challenge. And if the teasing or the bullying becomes serious, you will need allies in the school as well. And I think that sometimes that can be very difficult. So you want to go to somebody who is not trying to protect the school and say, oh, you're going to ruin our reputation, or what did you do, and turn it on. You need to find somebody who said, who responds with this kind of answer. Let's see what we can do to make this better. Recently, I was called by a friend whose son I've known since he was 6 years old. And there was a boy there who was bullying the other children and had really formed a kind of protection ring where he would bully them, but he would leave them alone if they did what he said. And my friend's son was not willing to do that. And ultimately his father had to go to the school board because the school was unresponsive. Well, I'm going to be going to that school in the fall. It was just too late for me to do it at the end of this year.
Yeah, that's
and singing
unfortunate.
and doing a presentation.
That's how you get everybody going with your singing. That's how you've changed the world, right? You've added love and peace to the world with harmony and your many songs.
Well, singing, to me, is not so much a performance as an exercise in bringing people together to sing together. when we're singing together, whether it was at the March on Washington, where Peter, Paul, and Mary sang "If I Had a Hammer" and "Blowing in the Wind," or whether it was, it's in a concert when we're singing "Puff the Magic Dragon," it brings people together and it creates a very strong, loving environment. Now, the way I do it when I go to schools, and I'm going to, I've been to over 500 educational conferences to discuss this work and to let them know what is possible. When I go there, I sing, and the educators or the school counselors or the school administrators or the principals or whatever, they sing together themselves and they feel it. They feel the sense of togetherness and they hear the words of the song, and that acts as a catalyst for bringing people to another awareness of the fact that if we make a group, a caring group together, we can combat this kind of mean-spiritedness. So when I would come to a school or sing to a conference of educators, it's not only talking about something, it's actually doing it. Because when they feel themselves united in that way and caring and emotionally affected in that way, then they understand how the power of that music can bring them together.
You talked about some of the places you've gone. I know you've done a lot of good for the world, and you've stood up for many causes. And I'd like the kids to understand a little more about who Peter Yarrow is, because some of them may not be as lucky and may not know all about you, and you've done some pretty great work. And I was wondering if you would share it with us and how you...
Well, Peter, Paul, and Mary Mary passed away, so it's only, there's only Paul and me now, and we sometimes perform. But with Peter, Paul, and Mary, we had a trio that, when we sang, showed people what it was like to really be open and intimate to one another, and our voices would interact in a way that let you know how much we cared about each other and what we were singing about. But the songs that we sang frequently were not just about love and romance. They were folk songs that dealt with issues of hopes and dreams that were part of the changing of this nation. Primarily it started in the civil rights movement when Peter, Paul, and Mary sang at a march for 250,000 people where Dr. Martin Luther King delivered his I Have a Dream speech.
Wow.
And we sang Blowing in the Wind and If I Had a Hammer. And If I Had a Hammer had been a very big hit before this, and Blowing in the Wind had just reached the pinnacle of its rise on the charts. And when we sang, the words said what the march was about. For instance, in the second verse of Blowing in the Wind, it said, "How many years can a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea?" Meaning, how many years can a mountain of hatred and animosity and pain exist before it goes away? How many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? And right there were 250,000 people, the majority of whom were African Americans, who were living under enormous oppressive circumstances. They couldn't vote in certain states because they had laws that would make it impossible for them to vote. They couldn't have their children grow up with and associate with white children. In our own capital city, if they wanted to use a public bathroom, they couldn't unless it said for colored only. They couldn't sit in the front of the bus and they could be lynched. That means hung by a lynch mob of people, just ordinary people who got together and killed them. And there would be no legal repercussions. Nothing would happen. Nobody would ever get charged. So they were not, this was the remnants of slavery. And this was the opposite of what America was supposed to be about, with liberty and justice for all. It wasn't liberty for all. It wasn't justice for all. It was justice, perhaps, for whites, but for blacks, it wasn't. So when we sang this song, it touched people's hearts in a way that said, yes, we're committed to this too. And the miracle is in America that it did change. And we had the Civil Rights Acts come in, and ultimately African Americans have become a very, very prominent part of America, with power and wealth and celebrity.
So I have to know, did you meet Dr. Martin Luther King?
We were on the same stage together, but
Wow.
we met many other people, but we didn't have any direct contact. We did
But
meet.
to be on the same stage and to sing for them was wonderful.
Oh, it
So-
was amazing to sing on stage.
So you've done, like I said, some incredible work.
Well, we did meet Nelson Mandela. We had been a part of the anti-apartheid movement, and Nelson Mandela was in jail at the time, and after 37 years he was released, and he became the president of South Africa. Maybe it was 27 years. Was it 27 years or 37? Hang on, let me ask.
That's okay.
Well, no, I want it to be right. I don't want to
Okay.
make that mistake. I'll ask Siri, and she'll know. She's a terrific
She is.
buddy. Do you talk to her?
I do. We asked her if someone else's Siri is as smart as her, and she said in the group of, I can't even remember, but she acclaims
smart.
being smart. She doesn't play soccer because it's a head game. Yeah, that's what she told us, something like that.
Right.
But yes, we sit and ask her all kinds of funny questions.
How long was Nelson Mandela in jail?
Let me have a look. Okay, I found this on the web.
27. That's right.
27 years.
Okay. So,
Here's what I found on the web.
So they may not know. Why was
okay,
he
I'll
in?
explain. In South Africa, people of color were absolutely unequal to whites. They lived in a kind of semi-form of slavery. Not as bad as it was when we had real slavery here, but it was terrible. So there was a leader in South Africa by the name of Nelson Mandela, who was one of the leaders of the opposition to this government that was so oppressive and so cruel. And he was put in jail, and he was there for 27 years. And one of the reasons
Wow,
he got
that's a
out
long time.
was that the United States had a boycott of South Africa, so that we did no trade with them, but other countries did as well. So finally, when we were part of that, Peter, Paul, and Mary were part of campaigning for that boycott. And I wrote a song for Nelson Mandela called No Easy Walk to Freedom that he heard when he was in Robben Island in jail. So when he got out, at a certain point, Peter, Paul, and Mary met him, and that was, to us, in many ways, the kind of experience that you might describe when you would meet a Martin Luther King. We played for the Queen of England, and we marched with Bishop Desmond Tutu, who also was from South Africa and was a recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. And we campaigned for many other movements, like the movement for equality of women in this country. because, there were choice marches and women's rights marches, and we sang at them and we campaigned for that. And women's place in regard to men has changed in the United States. It's really much, much more equal and fair now. It's not fully there, but it's much different and much better. So we're a part now of the climate movement because of the very scary possibility of really, really irreversible, catastrophic climate change. It's already begun to happen with the polar caps melting. So, but we always did it a little differently from people who would just speak. We would sing songs about the things that we cared about. And when we would sing the songs, it would bring people together, because that's what singing together does. So we had a very special place in this world of music. There are many entertainers who focus on just loving their music, and that's a wonderful thing, and singing their hearts out. But to us, singing also meant finding ways to bring the community together.
And to teach lessons, right?
Pardon me?
And to teach lessons. You guys were teachers.
Well, yes, and these songs had their lessons to teach.
Yes.
And we learned from them, and we shared what we learned in these songs with others when we sang.
Well,
maybe I should sing Don't Laugh at Me Now, and then you'll understand what it's like to hear a song that's a beautiful song. I didn't write it, but I love singing it. A song that really brings hearts together, and then you'll understand. Hang on a second while I get the guitar. So this is the song that's the anthem of the Don't Laugh at Me program. And when you hear it, you'll hear something that's probably going to move you inside, particularly if you're a teenager and you're feeling this kind of pressure and stress about people wanting you to conform or people making fun of you. You'll understand that this song really is your song as well as others. And when people sit around and they sing and they say, oh, well, we all feel this way, it's a powerful thing. You'll see what I mean. I'm a little boy with glasses, the one they call a geek. A little girl who never smiles, 'cause I got braces on my teeth. And I know how it feels to cry myself to sleep. I'm the kid on every playground, the one that's chosen last. I'm the single teenage mother trying to overcome my past. You don't have to be my friend, but is it too much to ask? Don't laugh at me, don't call me names, don't get your pleasure from my pain. In God's eyes, we're all the same. Someday we'll all have perfect wings. Don't laugh at me. I'm the beggar on the corner, you've passed me on the street. I wouldn't be out here begging if I had enough to eat. And don't think I don't notice that our eyes never meet. Don't laugh at me, don't call me names, Don't get your pleasure from my pain. In God's eyes, we're all the same. Someday we'll all have perfect wings. Don't laugh at me. I'm fat, I'm thin, I'm short, I'm tall, I'm deaf, I'm blind. Hey, aren't we all? Don't laugh at me. Don't call me names. Don't get your pleasure from my pain. In God's eyes, we're all the same. Someday we'll all have perfect wings. Don't laugh at me. Don't laugh at me. Please smile at me. Please be my friend. Please accept me just the way I am. No one should be left out. We're all should be included, don't you think? Don't laugh at me.
Yay. Oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh, I feel so lucky to be here, and I know they're all in awe
Thank
with
you.
those words.
Thank you, sweetie.
Gosh, we talked and talked about hearing that song, so I'm so excited.
It's very strengthening. It's very helpful to know that you're not alone in this struggle to create. It's not just kids, by the way. Adults are treating each other in a very mean-spirited way now too. In television, for instance, some of the reality shows, it's so much
it's
about
awful.
shaming. And you look at the kids who are in trouble and troubled by being pursued and bullied, and they think, they don't want to go to school, they think about hurting themselves, and it's just
It's
an
horrible.
epidemic of
It's
this
all-
kind of thing.
The things that are on TV now are the kind of things back in the day where we wanted to hide if somebody was yelling in your house. You didn't want everyone to know that you had this meltdown. Now they televise it. If someone
That's
was
right.
acting irrational, you didn't want that televised.
In reality shows,
Or just
people
awful.
misbehave and act out and show how dysfunctional they've become, and then they got a lot of attention. And people are followed, particularly who are rich, particularly
They
people
act like
who are
witches.
rich, people who are rich or famous, and they follow them, and if they're acting out, there's this kind of terrible bargain. You can watch
Dysfunction.
me humiliate myself, and then I'll get more famous, and you can have the satisfaction of knowing something about me that is very embarrassing, and yet at a certain point it's become not embarrassing to humiliate yourself or show how troubled or dysfunctional you are in a way that kind of proclaims, oh, see, I'm not a functional person. I can't handle living in the world and being a constructive member of society. It's terrible that this is happening and that people are watching it. It's like being it's like being entertained with the Romans and the lions. Watching people get hurt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you have, I have so many questions for you, and I know we don't have that much time, but there's so many things I know that we would love to know, and I would love the kids to know. But so, did you have an inspirational song growing up that pumped you up, or one that you wrote that in times, because you do so much singing,
Yeah.
I think everybody needs an inspirational song that pumps them up.
Well, all the songs that I sing
Pumped everybody up. We're uplifting.
with Peter, Paul, and Mary, all of them made us feel very good and very. I think the reason that at this age, I'm 76, am so active and so positive is that I have this music. For instance, there's the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many years can a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea? Yes, and how many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Yes, and how many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? Well, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. That means the answer is in all of us. The answer is for us to be together and say, we will change this. And when I hear this song, it does give me power, it does give me strength. It does, and when I'm sharing it with others, it makes me feel, yes, together we can do it. Or if I'm singing a song like, Puff the Magic Dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Little Jackie Paper. When I'm singing that song, and we're all united in it, and we're feeling, well, we're treasuring something. We're caring about something together as we sing the song. And it's sweet. And sharing that sweetness empowers me. It's not about making money. It's not about being famous. It's about sharing something that has real value to you. So the music, so many people have said to me, hundreds, maybe thousands over the years, your music helped me get through a difficult time. So folk music has that quality. Not just Peter, Paul, and Mary music. I'm talking about, hundreds of wonderful singers of songs that started out as traditional songs, many of them, that nobody knew who the writer was, but then that tradition continued, and now there are many songs written in that genre that continue the tradition of songs that really affect the heart. And that is a powerful thing. More important to me than all the records that we've sold, and we did sell many, 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 is the way people took that music and brought it into their lives and said, this is speaking to me, this is telling my story too. And that's been very important to me. So, and it still is, and it's one of the things that keeps me going.
Nice, very, very, very nice. So everybody needs an inspirational song, and I know you've provided plenty. In fact, when you were singing Blowing in the Wind, I could picture myself at Wolf Trap, just with the wind blowing in the evening, the most beautiful, loving concerts I've ever been to.
Thank
so
you, sweetheart.
Very amazing. And it's nice for everybody to feel like they are one. So I think your music definitely does that.
Thank you.
So what do you want to share with us about Puff?
Well, Puff the Magic Dragon, there was a very stupid rumor about it, that it was about drugs, but it never was. It's only about a relationship between a little boy and a dragon, and ultimately the little boy has to grow up. And when he does, he can't go back to Honolulu and be with Puff. He has to try and do what he can to make the world a better place. So, but the truth of the matter, if you look at the book, the Puff the Magic Dragon children's book, at the end there's a little girl in it, and you wonder, what is that little girl doing in the Puff the Magic Dragon song? Well, it's there because Jackie Paper grew up and he fell in love, and they got married and they had a daughter, and at a certain point she said, I need to talk to Puff and I need him to be my friend. So she went to be with Puff, and Puff is no longer lonely because little girls and little boys can go and visit with him now.
Oh, I remember hearing you say that in Farmville. You said, and Puff's dad. You heard it straight from Puff's dad.
Right, and
I loved hearing that.
I'm the real Puff Daddy.
That's right.
Yes.
So it brings us to a tough subject. In Fairfax County, in Virginia, we're hearing about the horrific suicide statistics in so many schools. And as we were talking about reality TV, unfortunately on TV, in various movies, they portray suicide as almost an option, and that they're stopped or they're saved. But I don't think it should even be an option. I think it's game over, and it shouldn't be portrayed. It's a horrible thing, and we need to stop it. And I originally asked you to help us take some kind of strong stand like you've done on so many issues to help us stop suicide, because it's terrible. It's heartbreaking.
Well, let me talk about Newtown, which the Newtown killings by Adam Lanza was a great trauma, not only to Newtown itself, with 26 and 7-year-olds and 6 educators killed by this terribly
Are you referring
wretched...
to Sandy Hook?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Newtown, Adam Lanza killed 20 students and 6 adults, educators.
It's horrible.
And they called me up and they said, Peter, would you put a concert together for us to help the community heal? And I did, and it's a PBS show. And the town came together and they wanted to stop the guns that are available. An assault weapon was used to kill all these people by Adam Lanza. And I think that's true. I mean, we have, in this country so far this year, we have had over 8,000 deaths from guns owned by citizens, whereas in England, 46,
Just 46.
46, yeah.
Wow. What a big difference.
And it's not, well, England's a smaller country, but yes, but not 20 times as small, So we have this huge problem. But the other part of the problem that relates to the elimination of violence, emotional violence and bullying, that is so frequently linked to the desire of children to just hurt themselves or even end their lives. And that it's, to me, the important thing is to stop the desire of young people to hurt other young people, or children to hurt children. Because particularly with cyberbullying now, when you can get everybody just clicking and they can join in a pack to devastate the object of the bullying, it's a huge problem. What we need to do, therefore, is create a culture of togetherness, and that's what Operation Respect does. But we also need to focus in schools not just on their intellectual growth, but on the growth of the social and emotional and creative side of children. If we do that and create a caring society, the bullying will go down, the desire of students to hurt themselves will go down, and the idea of even taking their own lives will be eliminated. I agree with you, Marianne, that this is suicide. It's horrific to think of it as something that is, as you say, an option. But I do know, because I have a degree in experimental psychology.
Wow, you are truly amazing. Did
No.
not know that as well.
I went to Cornell and got my degree. I do know that when people are in horrific pain from depression or anxiety depression or bipolar depression, or that life is so painful that they can't go on. What's extraordinary is that children who are perfectly okay get so troubled by these attacks that they take their own lives. The number of combatants in the Vietnamese War who were killed is exceeded by the number who came back and took their own lives because it was so troubling. So we know that you don't have to be psychotic or extraordinarily depressed or extraordinarily, psychiatrically unbalanced to consider suicide. You have to be in pain. And what we need to do is remove the sources of pain. Because when these children feel like there is no end to their misery, they collapse inside. And we also have to be very caring and loving to the students who are injuring the other students, because they more than likely have been bullied and hit or tormented themselves. We have to treat them with care, like they're sick. Adam Lanza was sick. He's not a bad guy. A bad guy doesn't even begin to describe what he was. He was a wretched, destroyed human being that killed. And we have to have a sense of what his pain was and intervene so that when children are in pain and hurting other children, they stop it. And that has to be part of the educator's responsibility too. So there are no easy answers, because we have to change things in society for these things to occur. And I'm working very hard in my own way to do my little part. But doing one's little part, just as you are doing, Marianne, is what life is all about. It's not about acquiring objects. It's not about getting a lot of money. That's never, when I'm in a hospice singing to patients, they're never counting their money or wearing their jewels. Life is about who we love, who we care about, who cares about us, how we take care of them, how they take care of us.
Those are the people that are so hurt when they lose a teenager, or a teenager loses a parent. Unfortunately, in the Virginia area, over money, parents have just given up, and it's horrible for these kids. These are their role models to okay that. And what I've tried to preach on Teen Say and with teen groups that I meet with is that, or in my writing, not that I so much as meet with them, but that it's game over. Like, if they commit suicide over a girl or a boy, they don't have a chance at meeting the one that they were meant to marry, because they've already given up.
Well, you're right that the example of the fact that this is something that's going on makes it something that you say is an option, and it's happening all over and all the time. And frankly, to me, that's horrific that that's happened in our society. I'm totally with you on that. What we need to do is light hope. For instance, for LGBT kids who are born that way, kids who are gay or lesbian or bi or trans or whatever, they're born that way. They didn't make a decision to be that way. They were born that way. Just like you were born black or white, or your skin is a different color because you're from Asia, or just you're born with bald genes, or you're bald tall, or that's the way you're born. And if you're born gay or lesbian, you have to, the way to help them is, one successful campaign was, it gets better. To know that if you stick it through, and you find allies and you find friends, and you can love them and open your heart to them, it will get better. But right now, my hope is to change the educational system so that you won't have to endure this. That's my hope, and I'm working very hard to do my little part in making that happen.
It's a very big part.
It's a big problem.
We
it's
really
a big task.
welcome, yes, your help, for
course,
sure. And hopefully, maybe you can come up with a song about suicide. That would be pretty neat, huh? And then we'll all sing it together and very loudly. So,
Yeah,
and
you know, that's an interesting idea.
And then artists too, you know, artists that are, say, in a very yuppie area, and they say, oh, Mom, Dad, you know, when I graduate, I'm going to hit the road and I'm going to play the guitar and I'm going to sing. Now you can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
Other, you know, musicians that have become successful can relate to that, but the parents immediately go, oh my gosh, you'll be poor. You'll be on the street. You can't do that. You have to get a real job, a real career. And I remember when I was young, I wrote a poem that being an artist isn't a curse. It's a blessing. You're changing the world.
If you're doing what you love, whether it's painting or making music, and you don't have a lot of money, you'll be happy. As long as you have enough. If you really want to just take care of animals, you know, because you love animals. And you really don't have the ambition to be a veterinarian, but you want to, if you're doing that, if you're with animals, if you want, as long as you're doing something that makes you happy, you should pursue that. Because if you're going to choose a field because you think you'll make a lot of money, you're going in the wrong direction. Choose. I've always told that to my children, and I agree with you, Marianne. Choose what in your heart. Now it will change. I mean, I started out, I was a painter, then I was a physics major, then I switched to psychology, and now I'm a singer. But I was always doing what I loved, and I will continue to. And at my age, you know, I love what I'm doing. I'm very, very, very lucky.
And you're going to sing your new songs at your 100th birthday.
That's right.
On national TV.
That's right.
On public access.
That's right.
We're blessed to have you with us.
Right.
So, what would you say your greatest, dearest contribution has been to changing the world? Was it when you took the stage and did that song? Or?
I think the most important contribution that Peter, Paul, and Mary made was introducing the public to these songs that can be so healing and so strengthening. And that success that accompanied that effort really allowed it to go all over the United States and all over the world. We wrote some of them, most of them we did not write, but I'm very proud that we introduced something that allowed people to say, these songs tell my story, these songs speak to me, these songs are the soundtrack of what's important in life to me. And that's true of folk music as opposed to pop music. Although folk music at a certain point was the #1 pop music for a period of 2 or 3 years. But as a solo person, the thing that I think I'm most proud of in terms of achieving is this effort to try to make schools and classrooms caring and loving places. Because I have the feeling that if we want to have a sustainable future in which there will be peace, it's really going to come because the next generation is educated to create that. Now, I'm never going to see this come to pass in my own lifetime. It takes far too long for this kind of change to happen. But to know that I've helped move us on that path, to me, is enormously satisfying. I don't have to see the task completed, but to see it moving in the direction that I really, honestly, in my heart wanted to move, will be all the reward I could ever want in life.
You're going to live for another 100 years. We all
All
know
right.
it. All the good that you've done for the world will come back to you, and you'll stay with us forever.
Thank you.
So, thank you so very, very much. I
You're
hope your
welcome,
words are heard very loudly.
Thank you, darling. It's a great pleasure to talk to you. And I'm so pleased that you are doing this work. I've known you as a really young girl and known your father and seen you grow up. And now to see you do this work makes me feel like I have a partner who is younger than I am, but continuing this kind of work.
Aw, that is the best compliment I could ever get in life. I could only hope to teach a quarter or a tenth of as much as you've taught, or
It's
to
about-
help, not to teach, but to help people see the light,
It's about the
you know.
quality of what you share, not the number of people you touch. That's what's important.
One smile
Millions
is
and
contagious.
millions and tens of millions of people have heard our music, but some few of them have really, really, really been touched. And that's what you're doing right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good, sweetheart. Okay. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many years can a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea? Yes, and how many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Yes, and how many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? Well, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Little Jackie Paper I'm a little boy with glasses, the one they call a geek. A little girl who never smiles, 'cause I got braces on my teeth. And I know how it feels to cry myself to sleep. I'm the kid on every playground, the one that's chosen last. I'm the single teenage mother, try to overcome my past. You don't have to be my friend, but is it too much to ask? Don't laugh at me, don't call me names, don't get your pleasure from my pain. In God's eyes, we're all the same. Someday we'll all have perfect wings. Don't laugh at me. I'm the beggar on the corner, you've passed me on the street. I wouldn't be out here begging if I had enough to eat. And don't think I don't notice that our eyes never meet. Don't laugh at me, don't call me names, don't get your pleasure from my pain. In God's eyes, we're all the same. Someday we'll all have perfect wings. Don't laugh at me. I'm fat, I'm thin, I'm short, I'm tall, I'm deaf, I'm blind. Hey, aren't we all? Don't laugh at me, don't call me names, don't get your pleasure from my pain. In God's eyes, we're all the same. Someday we'll all have perfect wings. Don't laugh at me. Don't laugh at me. Please smile at me. Please be my friend. Please accept me just the way I am. No one should be left out. We're all should be included.